Hello everybody, and welcome to my review of Osmosis Jones. You might ask, why am I not waiting until August 7th next year to review it? And, put simply, August 7th was the day I was born, but I wasn't born the year Osmosis Jones was released. I was born on August 7th, 2006. Anyway, with all that stuff out of the way, let's get to Osmosis Jones itself. It has a really weird, surreal intro that I keep coming back to. Coughing. I didn't intend to do that, but it's on theme of the video because, the review. Sorry, this is my very first review. I just need to do a little something. There, I just had some headphones that were slightly out of place. Anyway, very on theme, I guess. The movie begins when Frank DeTore, played by Bill Murray, who was working at a zoo because his former job, he lost it, and... Hold on a second, I need to check one thing. Alright, back from checking the one thing. Anyway, let me get on with it. He gets into a fight with a chimpanzee and eats the egg. The chimpanzee makes whimpering noises, which I can only assume is it cursing him to die a horrible death. And it works! You might ask, what do I mean? Well, after he eats the contaminated egg, covered in mayonnaise and way too much salt, this is already a health hazard. The spit and the fecal matter just make it worse. Oh yeah, it landed on the monkey's floor. He applies the 10-second rule. The even more stupid brother of the 5-second rule. Anyway, there's these little cells that I headcanon aren't actually single-celled, but are in fact really small organisms from before even the Ediacaran. Side note, I know a fair bit about paleontology. It's actually my favorite part of science. But anyway, on to the thing. Osmosis Jones is our main character. Well, Bill Murray's also our main character. We've got a few main protagonists in this movie. Anyway, they're chasing after some germs who are riding on pieces of the egg, I should say. And, of course, they get most of them. But Ozzy accidentally cramps Frank. And I don't want to just summarize this, but for anyone who hasn't seen it before, consider this helpful. Anyway, Frank gets a leg cramp. Osmosis Jones gets yelled at by his thick boss, who is very obviously seeable to the naked eye, so good for him. Good for the boss. And we cut to 3 hours later in the gums. Sorry to do a little thing. And we see that there's this worker named Artie, and there's this other worker as well, and they're working in the gums to clean out the egg. Of course, the main villain of the movie, Thrax, shows up, kills Artie, and kills the other guy as well. He then sets the throat aflame via the gum. Jesus Christ, talk about an entrance. I thought he entered via the throat. But no, he didn't enter via the throat. He actually entered via the gum, like the area between your gum and your cheek, which has a hole in it that can probably go down into your throat. So, Thrax is a sneaky little guy. He's a sneaky guy. He's a very sussy baka for all you Among Us fans out there who, you all know what that means. I know what it means. I'm not a particular Among Us fan myself, but, taking the topic off review. This review probably sucks, but you know what I mean. Anyway, continuing onward, Osmosis Jones gets yelled at, gets partnered up with a pill. There's his girlfriend who is stuck with this terrible boss who, I kid you not, literally mind controls Frank. He says it's override, but it's basically mind control from the inside, and basically mind controls Frank to only take a cold pill instead of anything else. And oh my god, Pillman arrives, and funny Pillman is here, and he's here to save the day and do some good stuff. Of course, Osmosis Jones and the Pill Guy team up, they ride around. Meanwhile, the next morning, The next morning, very odd topic since Thrax is there now. But anyway, Thrax makes it to the armpit. Forgive me if I'm skipping over some stuff, but I don't remember the movie fully at this moment. Anyway, Thrax is in the armpit. Because Shane doesn't want Frank to do deodorant because it causes cancer, that's interesting, it led germs to be able to fester there. So essentially it's a lose-lose situation. If you use deodorant, you get cancer. If you don't use it, you get a bunch of really bad cells festering inside of you. I don't know if they're cancer or not, but I doubt it. They're probably more along the lines of generic cells. Probably something that causes some sort of disease. Generic disease cells. Mind you that these can't actually be single-cell organisms. These are more than likely primitive multicellular organisms. Or at least that's what my headcanon dictates. Anyway, Thrax kills their boss, and he becomes the rest of them's new boss. And he wants to do some evil stuff to Frank, i.e. kill him. Anyway, continuing on, snot shit happens. Gross out. And I've cussed. YouTube, please don't demonetize this video. I beg of you. I don't want to have to record this again. Please, YouTube, don't do it. It's just a little gaffe. Even if I do cuss more, you have no right to do that after what you've done recently. But anyway, getting back on topic, pretend all that stuff didn't happen. Some gross out happens with various body parts of Frank. And of course, here we are, you're closer to the end. A flu virus who ratted on influenza nearly gets obliterated by Drex, who's the cold pill thing, and of course, Ozzy and Drex, that's the name of the spin-off TV show, that's probably a different timeline, that makes the most sense for it to be different timeline, but anyway, Ozzy and Drex, go to the bar and do stuffs. Eventually, they find Thrax, who is in the middle of some truly evil stuff. You see, Thrax is a serial killer in that he's killed 20 people. Now, this is a very dark subject. He is a serial killer that has killed 20 people. Just, please take note of this. At least one of them was a child. A moment of silence for those 20 people. I know they're fictional, but I still feel it's the most respectful thing to do. Anyway, back on topic. Thrax has killed them by stealing their hypothalamus glands, and plans to do the same to Frank. Osmosis Jones and Drex attempt to stop him, but it costs Frank any hope of getting the restraining order that he had against the teacher he vomited on, which is the reason he lost his job, and he's forced to run away. Then, Thrax is still alive after the Zit explodes, though almost all of his minions are dead. Extremely on topic now. Anyway, Ozzy gets fired. But Thrax is dead at least, or at least as far as I know, so Ozzy was like, it was worth it to save Frank, which, is true enough. Anyway, Ozzy's girlfriend has enough of the mayor's bullcrap. She decides, hey, maybe I should go check things out myself. But first, Thrax kills his 2 minions. Then, the thing with... I'm sorry, it's slightly out of order. Anyway... Any comments about me stuttering? I'm not going to talk about them. Please don't criticize me. This is my very first on-camera speaking that's public, so please don't criticize me too much. I will hopefully improve. Anyway... it's almost like the theme of the movie is following me. I cough a lot. But no, I'm not sick currently, if you're wondering. Anyway. Anyway. Anyway, Thrax takes the hypothalamus. The chip destructs his skyrocket. He gets into the dream realm, or whatever the heck it is, breaks out, kidnaps Leah, I believe her name is. I'll call her Leah. Who's Osmosis Jones' girlfriend, or at least she will be by the end of the movie. Anyway, then he straight up throws a guy out of his car. Well, it's a small organism, but then he hijacks said car and turns it into a crazy punked out mobile. At this time, Shane has had an argument with her dad. You see, not only was her dad a massive slob, so was her mom. And because both of her parents didn't take care of themselves, and probably speaking, may have been orphans, but I have no evidence for that. That was just a little thought I threw out there. I just thought of it at the moment. But it's probably not true. Anyway, both of her parents didn't take care of themselves well. Her mother died because of it. And her father may also die because of it. But she doesn't know that, and neither does he. Anyway, at that point, the next morning, Frank goes with his brother to a trip to Buffalo, New York to eat wings. The trip is cancelled, the mayor panicked, and doesn't even think about the fact that one of his staff members has been kidnapped, and thus, yeah, he doesn't really seem to be very smart. Anyway, for lots of reasons, like, he really should have been more concerned about, making sure his staff member didn't get killed, or else he would have had massive stuff against him, like, why didn't you do anything, which legitimately they would be correct about. So that's the mayor not covering his bases and not having self-preservation in mind. Anyway, with the trip cancelled, the high-speed chip, even though the car driving in the human world has stopped, in Frank, the car chase has not stopped. Ozzy and Drex follow Thrax. And apparently the car chase goes on so long that once Frank has to be pulled over and get into a hospital truck, and Shane goes with Uncle Bob, who is Frank's brother, Bob, to the hospital to see if Frank's gonna be alright. Right? Thrax is, by that point the car chase finally stops, and a little battle with Thrax happens in the mouth. The uvula, I should say. Anyway, by this point, Frank is in the hospital, and is incoherent. He says Maggie, which could be the name of his dead wife, but we don't know but nobody really knows for sure. But I'll just take that as another little piece of headcanon. Anyway, Frank, of course, is not doing well. By this point, Thrax decides to use the pollen pills he picked up while in the toenail where he killed his two minions. And, well, he uses to chop up the tiny helicopters, which is improbable, but whatever. Anyway, Frank sneezes, and he sneezes so hard, actually it's not super hard. Anyway, Thrax escapes on the air of the sneeze. Realizing this, Osmosis Jones has Drex shoot him out of the mouth as well, to get him to be able to follow Thrax. They land at Shane's eye, a battle happens, and of course they end up on the false eyelash that Shane's given earlier on the bus. Don't you just love Chekhov's gun in a movie like this? Isn't that a great and expected movie to have Chekhov's gun? But real talk though, they fight on the false eyelash. Thrax makes a child-killing remark and seals himself to one of the darker pits of hell, and falls off with the false eyelash into a beaker of alcohol, where he burns to death. And then probably right after that he goes to hell. Osmosis Jones manages to write a tear into Frank's body, while the body is almost completely destroyed, and just barely under 108 degrees. Which is like way above the normal thing, which is meant to be 96.6, I believe. Anyway, Osmosis Jones gets in there. They get the hypothalamus gland and put it back into Frank, and he finally goes back to his normal 96.6 degrees. The mayor is kicked out of office, and of course, he ends up accidentally getting himself ejected in a fart joke at the end. Frank is doing better now. Osmosis Jones and Drex are back on the police force. The new mayor, who's a bit weird, but he's a good person, unlike the previous one, is in, and it's a happy ending. This movie was weird. It had way too much gross out. They really should have... I don't know. It wasn't particularly bad, and it wasn't particularly good. That's all I'll say. So, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I hope you all enjoyed this review, and if you did enjoy the video, maybe, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, Each subscriber helps me get closer to monetization, which allows me to be able to buy things whenever I do get monetized, so thank you all to anyone who subscribes because of seeing this video. You're all amazing, the ones who subscribe to me. I look forward to getting some subscribers and seeing if people will support me or not. I hope they do. And in that case, as I said before, see you next video. Hello everybody, and if you're wondering why I was gone throughout all of January, it was because there's not good revenue that month. I didn't know this initially, but I found it out. Anyway, onward to part 2 of my Osmosis Jones review. Part 1 was mostly me going over the various plot points and, the general story of the movie and giving a handful of thoughts. I've since changed my score of the movie from 5 out of 10 to 5.5 out of 10. This is because it's slightly, and I emphasize slightly, above average. Now anyway, this is more or less going to be me actually saying my long-term thoughts of the movie. Not long-term, that's the wrong word, but my thoughts, more or less. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch it immediately. Go watch it right now. You need to watch it to understand this part. Just let me pause for a second. I'll be back, okay? Just give me a second. Now, let's get into it. So, as many others have said, there's some cop movie cliches, but, I don't expect the heroes to be god tier. If they are, that's going the extra mile. The heroes are supposed to be, lovable little characters who we don't want to see get hurt. At least as far as I'm concerned. Again, this is all my opinion, but let's get on to the various things. As I already said, I'm sorry. Anyway, the live-action parts are weird. The biggest problem, and the biggest problem with the animated parts as well, is the gross out, but the movie's whole premise is gross out. And, it only got emotional in the last 10 minutes, which don't feel like 10 minutes, but it's still 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That is not enough time. That's just not nearly enough time to be emotional. It should have been 15 minutes, maybe 20, but what do I know? Anyway, let's get on to the real reason I made this part 2. Originally, part 1 was going to be a one and done of the review, but I feel this specific review deserves a part 2. This will happen with some of my reviews, but not all of them. Now let me explain why. Osmosis Jones suffers from an issue I have with it, or at least as far as I'm concerned. For me, the biggest problem with it, the thing that holds it down for me the most, is that its premise is, so minuscule. Now, this wouldn't normally be a problem. The blood cells designs are alright looking, but they're nothing special. But some of the germs designs, and viruses, and bacteria, and all that stuff look pretty cool. I need to do something for a second. I'll be back, okay? And I'm back. But yeah, with such cool-looking designs, it's just not really... It just feels so underwhelming to have such cool-looking designs used on such minuscule creatures. It would probably have been better if it was an alien planet. I've heard people suggest that, and you know what? That would have been pretty alright. But Alas, it isn't. Thrax is a alright villain. He's almost 6 out of 10, but like the movie itself, he suffers from microism. That's a stupid name. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. So anyway, what he suffers from is basically, he's physically quite weak. It takes effort for him to kill a human. He can't kill a human in less than 6 to 6.5 hours. That's as fast as it can get. That's the fastest he can kill. He incubated in the egg for like 3.5 hours, but he didn't need to do that. If he wanted to, he could simply spring on a human immediately and kill them in like 6 to 6.5 hours, which is very fast, but it still takes effort. He still has to get to the brain and pull out the hypothalamus, and then he just has to more or less wait for the temperature to skyrocket to the temperature it needs to be to kill the person. Now, Thrax is a ruthless D-bag. I don't want to get demonetized, obviously. He is a serial killer, and he killed 20 people. Now, if this were with humans instead of cells, Thrax would be a despicable scumbag, and he still is, but I would be very happy to see him death. It is quite cathartic to see him die anyway, but he dies so ignominiously. He should have been killed within the body. What happens in the body stays in the body. Ozzy and Drex is better than Osmosis Jones, but, you know, that's not saying enough. It's 6.5 for me. There are other movies I plan to review. But anyway, continuing on, Osmosis Jones could have been a good movie, but you would have had to make it, like, human and not blood cell related. More or less, it's the microscopicness of everything that's a big problem with it. I don't really know how to rewrite this movie. Constructive criticism. Don't make everything microscopic. Another constructive criticism that is connected to the previous one. Don't use gross-out humor in absolute spades. In fact, don't use gross-out humor at all. That's really it. What they could have done better was alright, but, you know, is just sort of there. It's not even as good as Ferngully, although the only thing that keeps Ferngully from being absolutely just unpleasant, a 4 out of 10. What makes it a 6 out of 10 is Hexus. If Hexus wasn't in it, it would be a 4 out of 10. No questions asked. Like, you know, easily. And that's just, you know, sort of, a villain can really uplift a movie. A hero is only as good as their villain. This is sort of weird to me. A hero can be really well written, and the villain can be terribly written, and a villain can be amazingly written, and a hero can be terribly written. They don't depend, a villain and a hero don't depend on each other unless they do one of those dynamic things, and those are quite good. But as I said before, a villain and hero don't necessarily depend on each other for their well-writtenness. The chemistry wouldn't be good because, you know, one of them's poorly written, but you get the point. You get the point. Obviously, I don't really know what else to say. Too much gross out. Thrax was alright, but he needed to be an actual threat to humans. They shouldn't have made everything microscopic. I get the in-the-body novelty of it, but, you know, you need to make them big. At the very least, they could have done the luxury of giving Thrax a better death. But, as it stands, he dies so pathetically. He's just so pathetic. He just died so pathetically. It's just, I can't say this enough. But Thrax's death is the worst thing about him. He died so ignominiously. Just so pathetically. It makes him look so weak. It makes Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants look strong and powerful in comparison. And he's about the same size as Plankton. Maybe Plankton's a little bit bigger. Yeah, I think he's a little bit bigger, but still. Also, a headcanon that all the cells and viruses and bacteria, those aren't actually cells, viruses, and bacteria. They're plankton creatures. The bad ones are the ones that absorb viruses and bacteriums, or bacteria and all that sort of stuff. And that makes sense. That's my headcanon. You can agree or disagree with it, but you're not really gonna change my mind on this. The reasons why it's just single-cell creatures being alive is kind of weird to me, whatever. But anyway, moving onward. I don't really know what else to say. The movie is just... It's above which is above meh, but it's just sort of... Yeah. Also, I'm gonna spend the rest of this video talking about it's just so sickening to see people, singing Thrax's praises. It's just so infuriating. This guy has murdered people. He's killed 20 people, including an old man and a child. He's a serial killer. Look, this is in the same vein as loving Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy. These people are sickos. Thrax is a serial killer. Do not love this guy. Do not thirst after him. He's evil. He's evil. I cannot say this enough times. Never thirst after the villain. They are a serial killer. They have no morals. They don't want morals. They are evil. They kill people. They do evil things for evil reasons. But yeah, don't fall in love with Thrax. I can't say this enough times, just don't. He's evil, he's a serial killer, and while he may not be real, it's still not a good thing to, he's cool and all, but he's cool in the same way that all villains are cool. He has a coolish design, although there are some other bacteria and viruses that have cool designs. Like, look at the one that's on the oyster, the contaminated oyster that Frank ate. That one is the prime example to me. If he'd been a human-sized thing, it would have been epic. Excuse me for a second, I need to clear my throat. I'll be back in a second, y'all. Just hang tight and wait. But, yeah, more or less, that's all I really have to say. But let me just say one more time. Do not simp for Thrax. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, and make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Every subscriber helps grow my channel, and is appreciated. So please, I said it before and I'll say it again. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And one last time, and for good measure, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.